I just posted a video where I speak about the fact that I am a pianist and composer, but I don't like pianists. And the wonderful thing is that a great friend make comments on it, and I love the comments because this gives me also the opportunity to expand a little bit this idea and explain myself a little bit better, and also discuss more. It's always great to speak about those things, at least in my opinion. And my friend Varun, he mentioned that it's interesting think of different performances as ways of experience the music, and I completely agree. I have nothing to add on that. And but my point is that this is a quite rare event in the sense that from what I see in the what is called the music market of the classical music market is that I see a kind of standardization. And I when I listen new recordings today of pianists, I always notice that I can recognize from where they take their information for that interpretation, and this information is not coming from the score, it's coming from another recording. So it's like they are treating the composers like Beethoven, Mozart, Bach, Chopin, Liszt, all these composers, they are being treated like oral information and not writing information. So the tradition of playing according to a kind of market is stronger now than the tradition of paying attention to the score. And the main problem is that when I started to study about music, I heard many times people saying, oh, people that study classical music, they are too much more related to the score. They want to read that perfectly. They are not like jazz players that improvise a lot and don't care too much for notes. But these are what normal comments, even if it's not true in any sense. But this, I heard many people saying this, many musicians speaking about this. How precise is the playing of the classical pianist, and it's not true. Actually, the most I listen, the most I am sure that any jazz player can be much more precise about rhythm than classical pianists, and this is a little bit a shame because that means that they are doing a kind of fake job, you know, making a work that is not fair, because you are dealing with something that few people know, and then when you go in front of this public, you are just trying to show off yourself, and you never care about what you are presenting to these people. What is the importance of that guy that wrote this 200 years before you were born? And I think that interpretation must be a space for a lot of freedom. So it's interesting because some people maybe will think that I'm very conservative. I'm not. I love when people have crazy ideas about what is writing in a score, but if the person is paying attention to that score. So there are pianists that I think fantastic in their interpretations because they do something that I will never do probably. But I cannot say that there is no importance in what he's doing because he's doing something that is almost the opposite of what I expect from that score. But he's thinking about that score. The main problem is that it's a very rare event. So this is what makes me not interested in pianists, because I see them as copyists of interpretation. Because when you started to have the recordings, many people start to listen to the recordings and, oh, I love this music, so I'm going to try to play it. And they go to the piano, put the musical score in front, and they try to imitate that memory that they have from what they listen. And by imitating that, they don't pay attention to all small details that are right in the score, because that recording that you have heard and you keep hearing, listening all your life, often don't have the same precision of that score. And this started, of course, when the recordings started. Because especially in the beginning, some musicians it was a new experience, difficult to deal with, and for every musician is a little bit tricky to go to to a studio and start to make a record. So, but getting back to the point, why I don't like the pianists. Also, because we need to make a very different, a very big division about what is public of classical music and what is a student of classical music. And here in student, I will include all professionals, because the professional will be a student for all his life. You are going to always study, unless you are lazy and you already have always the same kind of program. We can see some pianists doing this, but they do all their life long with 1, 2, 3 programs. it's possible, okay, but I don't think this is so interesting, and I don't think it's a good contribution to the classical art, but no problem. But I am not like this. I am a student for all my life, as long as I live. So I think that as a student of classical music and professional, I can never consider myself public. I can never think, oh, I am the public. I want to go there, sit down and enjoy the concert, and then I'm going to decide the best interpretation, and I will listen always to the best interpretation. Well, it's possible that some interpretation will be fantastic in my mind, yes, and it will. But I cannot agree that that interpretation must be called even by myself as definitive, or oh, this is the best recording, etc. This makes completely no sense. Art is not about being the best of something. This is not sports. And even if some people keep on this way, this is their problem. Okay, no problem. But the point is, when I think about the public need a kind of entertainment, and they are not there for studying or for understanding that you are playing a Prélude Lecture de Dante, and they need to read Dante. Sometimes they even don't know who is Dante. They don't never heard about Dante Alighieri. Okay, no problem. They are there because they want to enjoy some classical music. Some are there because they want to pretend that they are very intelligent people. There is this. This is a very dark side of the classical music too. Many people go to classical music because they want to pretend they are cool. They are, oh, I'm too much smart. I'm very intelligent, so I listen classical music. This is part of public too. But there are people that are just there for enjoying, for feeling some different emotions and this kind of thing. And this is public. And this is completely okay. Any one of them is okay. The point is that as a student of piano, as professional of piano, we cannot be the same way saying, oh, this is the best record and this is the best, because actually, even as a professional, being teacher many years, even sometimes I don't like some works, or I don't like some composers, and there are plenty of them, of course, that I don't like, but I need to teach about. So my mind must be open to that. And I need to remember that my taste is also enemy of art. So not just the taste of others are my enemies, because I'm not art itself. So I can create art, yes, I'm a composer, but I am open to the possibilities. And so the point here is, when you make this difference between what is composer, what is pianist, and how this interfere in the life of a student of piano, then it's too much difficult for me nowadays to consider that I need say to students, oh, listen to as many recordings as you want. Oh, you can, must try recordings, but especially I always say it's like the very famous books, like the, how they say, the bestsellers. It's like bestseller. If it's a bestseller, don't waste your time reading, because probably it's not good. it's something like this. When you speak about classical things, okay, you think about, oh, I'm going to speak about business. This must be bestseller, because this is another thing. But speaking about classical arts, if it's a bestseller, probably it's not good. it's a little bit like this. And if someone is too much famous on the piano, I'm saying about marketing. I'm not saying about someone that plays fantastically. There are plenty of people playing fantastically, and they deserve their space. But there are many people that are just famous by name, and when they go and play, doesn't sound any special. You can see many students playing much better, but some of them, some professionals like this, they have a lot of marketing around. They have name, they have history behind, and this history is about marketing too. I have seen many recordings that when I listen, I say to myself, I don't understand why someone say this is a great pianist, because the recording itself is recording in an unappropriated way. The playing is clearly out of control, and so there are plenty of strange things like this. Of course, I'm not going to mention names on this, but the point is, and this made me remember another thing. Made me remember one curious video that I watched a few days ago about what's that name? Seymour Bernstein. He's a piano teacher, I think from USA. I'm not sure. I didn't know too much about him, but apparently he's very very famous. So it's my mistake that I don't know him. But I found this video where he was speaking about playing Chopin Nocturne Opus 9 number 1, and he was playing with another guy, and then the guy played and he said, oh, but the problem is that you play everything flat and you need to think about the difference of nuances in the notes, something like this. And then he started to playing these notes, making a crescendo in the crescendo, and he starts to make the few variants that were possible in a very small group of notes. Then, as a result, what you can do is, or you make crescendo decrescendo, or decrescendo crescendo, or, so you have this 1-2 options. And then, by doing this, in some ways you are claiming that the interpretation must be one of these 2 options. And when you do this, any unprepared student will listen to that and say, oh, so I need to do this. And they are going to start to do this every time that they see a line like that. And by result, everything that that person will interpret, you add that because one important teacher said it in that way. And this is a tricky thing. Because when you start to do too much, now we are living an era where we have too much these pianists playing with extreme expression changing in melodies. So a huge crescendo, huge diminuendo, and while this is a very good technique itself, often this doesn't make justice to the music. Why? Because they are lacking one very important thing in music, that is the diction. And what is diction in music? Well, you have diction when you speak, right? You need to make clear the words. You cannot speak unclear because it makes difficult the communication. If I start to make, are you fine? The people say, oh, he have a problem in the voice, or if is lacking diction. Sometimes there are people that have some struggle, some we don't know what, but this is not the natural way, for example, for say I'm going to my life will be making speech about language. It's difficult when you have a problem with diction. And the same with music. If you don't have diction for music, the result is going to be this. So you have always a music that the melody is being masked by this kind of huge nuances of expression. So you have and then for the public that is listening for the first time, and we need to remember that no matter how many times you studied that, some people will listen that for the first time in your concert maybe. So for someone listen for the first time maybe cannot accompany all your idea of crescendo diminuendo, and they will not understand exactly all the notes that are related to that. I have listened many recordings where people play, for example, the 2 hands. They are in perfect balance when start, but they start to make so much nuance with one hand that at some point the left hand enter with notes that are in the same layer of sound. And then I say, but that's not part of the melody and it's sounding like a melody. And then if I listen to another recording and I'm always listening to that wrong, let's call wrong one, I'm always listening that wrong one, and I listen a new recording after that, what is going to happen is that when I listen to the new recording, if the new recording is right, I will say, oh, I don't like this because there's no that connection between the hands. And then it starts the big problem of the main discussions on the internet about classical music. Many people unprepared about music knowledge, they barely know how to read sometimes, and they start to discuss what's better, what is the best this, what's the best interpretation. And this leads sometimes to a kind of marketing also. Some people naturally make this kind of marketing around some recordings because, oh, this is a great recording. Someone speaks so enthusiastically about that another say, oh, that's a good recording. So I will listen. They listen, they don't find any mistake because they also don't know how to read the score. And then they say, oh, so I think this is one of the best recordings, really. And then go and write also, oh, this is one of the best recordings. And then become kind of, one after the other saying domino effect, I think is the name of this. I don't know. One after the other, saying that that is one of the best recordings, but none of them read a musical score at any point or understand about the musical score at any point. And then sometimes a musician unprepared see that, oh, this must be my reference because I want to study that music. So first thing, before even pick up the musical score, they listen to that song, that a recording of that piece, and then they go to the piano and start to practice based on what they listen. And then we keep that wrong tradition. So too long, I think, already saying. But with what I just said here, I think that make clear why I don't like pianists and why I prefer the composers, because the composers, they give me the complete freedom to look to the score, and I don't need to follow Horowitz, I don't need to follow Rubinstein, I don't need follow anyone. I can listen then, especially after I study. That's the big point. I studied something, I can listen after, but I don't like to sit down and listen recordings of pieces that I don't know, and then based on this I build my interpretation. I think this is lack of individuality, or something like this. But the point is, if you are there for being a student, professional, then you need to think about these things. If you are a public, that makes no difference. So this is the big point. And I think that is enough. I said a lot of things. I think that if there is more discussion about this, it will be very interesting to clarify something, but I think I said enough. Okay, so thank you everyone, and I hope this video will be interesting for some people. Okay, and thank you especially for my friend here that posted the comment, that every time I have a chance to have some comments, wonderful comments like this, I would be very happy to explain some things like this too. Okay,